Hello friends, and welcome back to Pleasant Lost History's Cybertown Station. My name is Kier, and today we're going to be looking at some of my favorite fonts. Fonts that I have a relationship with, and a lot are from my childhood. Actually, first on my list is Chiller, which I remember this from Paint back in the day. It's just a really sloppy, inky font, and when you pixelize it, it's fun. Another favorite, which is kind of back in vogue, is Hobo, famously marketed in Microsoft Word as Hobo Standard, which is categorized as STD. But we don't stigmatize STDs anymore, friends. Don't do that. That's how I remembered it for the longest time. Then I started seeing it places on supermarket labels, and I feel like it's the closest hippie vibe font for a lot of word processors, so it got roped in with that a lot. I think it's fully come back around in 2019. It might be becoming a little bit too played out, but it's a really fun font. I love it. Futura stuff is fun. I like the backstory behind Futura. Also Futura Black. It's just that that very idealistic, well, almost like Bauhaus approach. So you have Bauhaus 93, which we'll just lump them all together. You know, simplifying things into shapes, sans serif, and, you know, Futura, it's like futuristic, and that's, isn't that like the Supreme deal? The Barbara Kruger, that's Futura, I'm pretty sure. Arial. I grew up using it in MS Paint and Word. I like the name because I knew someone named Ariel in middle school. It just sounds nice. Plus, everyone loves Helvetica. Arial is slightly different, and I just think it's fun. Like, it definitely doesn't look as good as Helvetica if you're comparing the two, but I think that's funny, so I like Arial better. Helvetica, obviously it will always get overplayed because it's like the standard, and it does look good, okay, but I don't know, there's just something counterculture about liking Arial. Oh, that's a quote, hot quote. Okay, Comic Sans, duh. I don't know, I'm not even gonna say anything about it. Obviously I like Comic Sans. Wingdings 1 through 3 and Webdings. Epic stuff. Bringing pictures into a word processor, oh my gosh. I mean, you have your roots in like the Commodore keyboard, whatever that was, with the pictures on the side. Anything where you're bringing symbols into a letter only area, I'm so down for. Okay, so that was like a lot of fun ones. Now let's get a little bit more in the weeds. In terms of some basic calligraphic fonts, my top faves are Lucida Calligraphy, Corsiva, and Apple Chancery. They're somewhat similar, all with their little differences. Lucida Calligraphy is probably the top one there, just because of how timeless and kind of bad it is. Basically, when you just have everything separated out into a very general calligraphic style. I love how that looks, and people use it for menus, people use it for signs, or bathroom is here signs. Like, oh my gosh, it's so good. It just looks so weird. Cause it's like calligraphy, but it's not. That sounds obvious, but I don't know. I like it. Take that 10 steps further with Zapfino. The story behind Zapfino is pretty interesting, and I think for the time it was kind of impressive because that's not something you would see. I know at least when I was coming up in Microsoft Word, you'd scroll all the way to the bottom and you get Zapfino, you get the poo, like, what is that? It just took up so much space in the sample text line. It can only do so much. It really can only do so much. Like, something is just off about it. But love the history, but also it doesn't work, and I love that. I love it for that. Let's see. Courier is great. I guess American typewriter vibes. It's just a basic one. I'm kind of glad Instagram adopted. I don't know if it's exactly Courier, but Instagram with the option to have a typewriter-esque font. Typewriter font is good. I don't know. I like it. I just like the blockiness and also the roundedness of a typewriter font where you have like very choosy serifs, if that makes sense. It's clear that it's based off of something, handwriting, calligraphy, whatever, but it's into another thing, but it didn't go so far where you're like, Futura, I don't know, it's a great look, and honestly, like, off a typewriter, the typewriter font does look cool. Like, I enjoy how the aesthetics of it looks very, so it just has a pleasing, it just looks good. Algerian's pretty great. Again, another, like, restaurant menu, bathroom sign, and anything that's, like, slightly fancy, it's great. Love it. I think I prefer the version with the drop shadow line. I think I prefer that version because that's what I grew up with, and it's worse looking. I don't know if Herculaneum font is really in the same vein as Papyrus, but in my head, it's the same kind of deal. So I've always had a disdain for that, for especially Papyrus, I guess. I don't know why, but just because it's been such a long journey. We're not ready for Papyrus yet to make any sort of comeback. Maybe it's time though, but it can't be ironic. It can't be like, you have to be completely sincere in using Papyrus. There's no other way around it. I don't know. Desdemona, I used to think this was a really badass font as a kid. Looking back, it's okay. It's kind of goth. It's fun. I don't know. I grouped Joker Man and Curls together. They're not the same thing, but they're the same amount of silly funkiness. What can you say? Sometimes they actually work in a context. I used to really like the font Cooper because I liked Almost Skateboards, and their font is either definitely Cooper or close to Cooper, that type of like bubbly. There's some basic console types that I like Andale Mono is pretty good. Menlo is pretty good. Of course, Courier. I don't know if I'd want to code in Courier, but Lucida Console is pretty good. I mean, what bad can you say about Giddy Up? Just timeless. Cracked, also timeless. Love when people use this one sincerely. I'm actually really interested in the progression of Impact and how it's just meme font now. I just think it's duh, but it's interesting to me. Oh, also Deja Vu for that type of basic vibe. Ravy is so fun. I can't remember if it really made an appearance. I feel like it did in some version of either Word or MS Paint that I had, but yeah, classic. It's silly, but there's kind of like a sternness to it in a weird way. It's almost kind of like wide tip marker graffiti slab vibes, especially that M. It's like you could see how to do it. Arms get thin. Yeah, there's more to Ravy than you think, I feel. So to end it, at least for today, I probably have more that I'm forgetting, but so I was using Illustrator pretty early on because my dad was into Adobe Illustrator, and I grew up on Photoshop Elements. I messed around with a lot. We definitely had Illustrator CS1 and then CS2. I know at least for the original CS program, there was a font, two fonts that were very specific and I loved as a kid, which is Rosewood and Mesquite. And they're both kind of old-timey Tuscan style fonts, I guess. I don't know if Rosewood really is considered to be that, but they're old school signage fonts, I guess. Especially Mesquite, and I used both of those for a good amount of design. I mean, while I was a kid, like it wasn't anything serious, but I just thought they were so cool. And then I saw Mesquite on a charcoal briquettes bag, and I knew it was all downhill from there. And now it literally took me like a few weeks of kind of casual searching to re-find what it was and what it was called. It's Mesquite, which is a town in Texas, actually. Interesting, I didn't know that. I think I used to like how sharp and spiky it was, but there's always this kind of unsettling feeling about those things that dip down on the sides. Like, I don't know, I think it always like grossed me out a little bit, but I just thought it was so cool looking back then. At least for Mesquite, that's a very Adobe font. Like I think it was made in their font laboratories. That's a great one to end it on. I love fonts, I love typeface, I love sign painting. And it's fun to not take it too seriously, and it's fun to appreciate, especially the stuff you grew up with. Like that's my childhood right now, scrolling through the Microsoft Word font list. My stomach hurts right now. Lucky for me, I got San Pellegrino on deck. So, thanks for watching. My name is Q. You've been here. If you want to support me, go to patreon.com/BusterRutabaga. Everything that I've ever made and done is at k11art.github.io. It's great. It's fun. So, yay. Hope you have a good time with the rest of your time. Bye.
Here's some special rutabagas. Have a nice day.